Hi there. From a powerful and devastating tornado in Kansas to surprisingly rare footage of glaciers cracking straight from Antarctica. Today you will see what happens when Mother Nature gets angry and demonstrates all her devastating power. It would seem that this is an ordinary hike in the Andes. The guide had to go through the tourists' valley many times, but that day, everything did not go as smoothly as usual. In a matter of seconds, a stream of small stones turned into a crawl at an insane speed. It was a great luck that the guide noticed the imminent danger in time, and the tourists managed to orient themselves quickly, but it is unlikely that they will ever forget this hike. Traveling through the mountains is generally boring with unpredictable consequences. A group of tourists was on a tour in the Tian Shan area, when suddenly one of them clearly caught a crack in the ice, and then this happened. The footage that he managed to capture turned out to be epic, but not only because of the angle. The avalanche was moving much faster than the guy thought, and very soon it reached him. Fortunately, everyone remained intact, and the group was able to continue the journey, but already under a great impression from what had happened. Here are the shots that you definitely won't see in the advertising brochures about the paradise of Hawaii. During another volcanic eruption, one of its craters was destroyed, and all the lava that had accumulated there fell on the nearest village. The element was moving slowly, but because of the high temperature, it literally destroyed everything in its path, and the lampposts lit up like matches. And although people managed to evacuate, some cars and houses were literally engulfed by boiling lava. It was supposed to be an ordinary quiet day in a Swiss village, but some whims of nature are simply impossible to predict. In a short period of time, huge streams of mud poured down on the streets. And you might think that a half day is not as dangerous as, for example, a hurricane, but just look how quickly the element filled everything with itself. It easily carried away cars, broke overhangs, and demolished buildings. Fortunately, they were empty, but probably the residents were shocked when they looked at these shots, shot with video surveillance cameras. Strong thunderstorms are one of the most obvious manifestations of the wrath of nature. Not only can they cause terror to people, but also greatly complicate their lives. University students saw with their own eyes how lightning hit the power line, which caused an instant shutdown. Surely this not only struck them, but also left them without electricity for a while. On ordinary days, you are unlikely to distinguish this volcano from any other, but it definitely has no equals. A couple of years ago, the eruption of Hungo Tongo in Polynesia provoked the largest atmospheric explosion. The consequences were impressive. Several neighboring countries were hit by tsunamis, and the sound spread for 170 kilometers. NASA claims that the power of the eruption was stronger than the explosion of a nuclear bomb. This video could have become a shot from the movie about the apocalypse, but in fact, This is what the sky of the city of Laguna in Brazil looked like. Thick black clouds were rapidly moving and threateningly descending on the city. It is difficult to imagine what followed, but most likely it looked something like this. The workers were at the factory when they heard strange sounds from outside. Opening the gate, they could not believe their eyes. The storm, with the strongest rain and wind, reduced visibility to almost zero, and the guys were incredibly lucky that they found this while being in the shelter. One of the unpleasant surprises during the storm was the appearance of a tornado, and although the residents of the Canadian province of Alberta got used to the whims of the weather, such a spectacle was amazing even for them. Just check out these scales. It feels like a huge black pillar is about to swallow the whole city. However, the most amazing thing is that the tornado passed only through the fields and did not touch the houses. I can imagine how happy the locals were. But in Kansas, the tornado was not so polite. The destruction took place right through a small town. The wind speed reached 265 kilometers per hour, so the tornado easily demolished the roofs, and some houses were completely destroyed. And although the elimination of the consequences will take years, the main thing is that the locals survived. The water has a huge power, but certainly not only beneficial but also destructive. For example, it is able to wash away the ground in seconds and provoke the fall of a residential building right in front of an amazed crowd. But watching it wash away the loose soil under the building is not as amazing as witnessing something like this. During the Hurricane Fiona in Puerto Rico, a huge number of landslides led to flooding, and the elements instantly demolished the heavy metal structure. Everything happened so quickly that the workers did not even have time to do anything. They were left only shocked. The flow was so rapid that in just a few seconds it tore out the bridge and carried it further along the stream, as if the structure was made of light plastic, not metal. Hundreds of kilometers of the open sea is one of the scariest parts of the ocean, where sailors are left alone with the elements. This is the Drake Strait. It takes 2 days to cross it, and anything can happen during this time. Most often, a strong wind rises here, which provokes a powerful storm with a wave height of up to 15 meters. For the captains of the ships, sailing through this area is considered a challenge, and looking at these shots, it is not difficult to understand why. And when the sky is covered with clouds, everything looks even more terrible. Impressive, isn't it? Another example of how unpredictable nature can be. China was not lucky enough to face weather whims. The harsh conditions were accompanied by the fact that one day the temperature difference in the country reached 90 degrees Celsius. In the coldest regions, it dropped below 50 degrees, so the falling precipitation instantly froze. The ice storm put people's lives on hold for several days. Roads and cars froze. Almost everything was covered with ice. It's an amazing sight, but it's much nicer to watch it from the window of a warm apartment. But it can be worse when, due to low temperatures, the crust of the ice covers entire buildings. The Canadian residents saw a similar scene. When the temperature was low and the wind was increasing, the residents of coastal areas had a hard time. The waves were so strong that they reached residential buildings. Because of the cold, the water instantly froze and covered the buildings with an ice shell, turning the city into a location from a fairy tale. I'm sure at that moment people regretted that they bought a house on the waterfront. The eruption of the volcano is an extremely impressive sight, which is confirmed by the enthusiastic screams of this girl, but it's better to watch it from a distance. And that's why. These guys managed to capture the eruption of the volcano in Guatemala, where almost immediately a pillar of ash rose in the sky at an altitude of more than 5,000 meters above sea level. And the fall of the ash was recorded in all inhabited areas within a radius of 40 kilometers. Can you imagine this strength? The luckiest guy in India is not a hero, a millionaire from slums, but this guy. He miraculously managed to escape a collision with one of the huge cobblestones and slip off the cliff. Such events make you appreciate every second of life even more. This is a wise decision, my friend. This area is one of the most dangerous in India because it is most often the place where landslides and stonefalls occur. It is said that this is due to the expansion of the city and large-scale construction. Explosive work in the mountains later leads to the fact that such large stones descend from the peaks. It's good that the cameraman has developed an instinct and is not afraid of heights. Welcome to Nepal, where on average 1,000 natural disasters occur a year. Most often landslides occur, especially in the monsoon season. Nevertheless, it is an unforgettable experience to see this with your own eyes. Sometimes you can understand their surprised exclamations. Builders and architects clearly underestimated the power of nature. It turned out that the wind can be so powerful that it can tear off the roof of a house like a sheet of paper in a matter of seconds. you imagine how fast the wind should reach to knock down a tree? On average, a gust of wind at a speed of 90 kilometers per hour is enough to cause serious damage to buildings and lay trees on the ground. Even a strong root system cannot resist such force. This strong straight-line storm, accompanied by a fast-moving group of strong thunders, has its own name, derecho. It was it that caught several states of America. In some areas, the wind reached speeds of 110 kilometers per hour. In some areas, heavy rain and hail began. It is easy to imagine what such a combination of unpleasant weather conditions is capable of. In the morning after derecho, some residents could hardly recognize their native cities. Since school, we remember what earthquakes are and how they occur. But it is hard to believe that one displacement of mountain ranges on the borders of China and Kyrgyzstan could provoke more than 4,000 earthquakes and become the cause of several strong earthquakes. Just imagine the horror these guys felt when they were on the 24th floor of a shaking building. Due to the peculiarity of the location of the country, the residents of Japan are used to earthquakes and react calmly to warnings of danger. But even considering this, many Japanese were probably shocked by the force of the quakes that day. The authorities immediately warned the residents to stay away from coastal areas due to the risk of a tsunami. However, it is worth noting the level of preparation for natural disasters. With such strong quakes, the station was not affected at all, and even the sign with the station's address remained intact. It is very difficult to surprise people with hail. Each of us saw this phenomenon with our own eyes, but it is unlikely that everyone was able to see a rainfall of this size. Ice balls the size of tennis balls can easily break through the glass and leave dents on cars. After the strong hail in Kansas and Missouri, hundreds of cars were damaged. The picture was just monstrous. If you don't know what nature has done, you might think that a car has survived a shooting. And even for the residents of Central America, such a phenomenon was a surprise. It is not difficult to imagine what shock people experienced when they saw a similar picture in Mexico. Although everything could be even worse if they had such a weather bonus. San Sebastian is a rather popular place for surfing in Spain. The waves here are around the year and reach almost 5.5 meters in height, except of course for cases when tsunamis begin. Not a single surfer at this time will dare to approach the water for safety reasons, but tourists did not miss the chance to shoot the raging waves of the bay, at least from afar. However, in Italy, the element also knows how to show character, and footage from the village of Vernazza proves it. The residents of another Italian city were a little less lucky. The violence of nature caught them by surprise. Many parked their cars right by the shore and did not expect such a turn of events. They could only sadly watch as the water flooded their cars. When the wind rises in the desert, it instantly raises a large amount of sand in the air, and depending on the wind power, the spectacle can take on different scales. So in one of the southern regions of China, a whole sandstorm rose, which experts have recognized as the strongest in the last couple of years. The wind carried sand at a speed of almost 15 meters per second, and the resulting wall of dust instantly filled the area and reduced visibility. The cameraman probably felt like a hero of some post-apocalyptic movie. It is difficult to call an avalanche in the mountains a surprise only if it does not overlap the entire highway. And this is not a single case. At the same time, almost 50 sections of the road were blocked due to avalanches and landslides. Sometimes the voids under the ground and floods work together and form such craters. I would advise these guys to move away from it as far as possible. It is not clear how fast it will grow. These amazing shots were shot by Kristin Hannon, an amateur photographer and assistant to the head of the expedition in Antarctica. In 2008 to 2009, the girl spent 3 months in the ice controlling the Zodiac, an inflatable ship used in polar expeditions. During this time, her cameras were hit with stunningly beautiful and sometimes even frightening shots, and professional sensitivity helped to turn on the camera every time at the right moment. The authorities of one of the cities in the Arab Emirates decided to relieve the residents of drought and drove rain clouds into the city. But everything did not go according to plan. It is easy to guess that the residents were not very grateful when they saw this.